help us to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more of this. Tina stared at her phone long after the call ended. Her mother's voice still echoed in her ears, calm, cutting. A backyard? Really, Tina? That's not a wedding. That's a budget picnic for people who've given up. No shouting. No questions. Just judgment and a click. That was it. No, I'm proud of you, Joe, I'll be there. Tina sat quietly on the steps of her back deck, the redwood slats cool under her legs. Early spring mist drifted in from the Pacific. She tucked her hoodie around herself and kept holding the phone, half hoping it would ring again. Maybe her mom would laugh, say it was a joke. But the silence only grew heavier. When Jordan came outside with two mismatched mugs, Earl Grey and honey, he didn't ask anything. He just sat beside her and handed her a mug. Steam curled between them like a soft wall. She's not coming, Tina whispered. Jordan nodded slowly. Because it's not the Ritz. Tina let out a dry laugh. No champagne tower. No harpist. No lobster risotto. Jordan shook his head. She never asked about the fairy lights we strung. Or the benches we built with our own hands. Or the flowers you spent hours sewing. She only asked once, Tina murmured. With a smirk. You're not doing buffet style, are you? Then she laughed and walked off before I could answer. Jordan said nothing. He didn't need to. Tina knew what he thought. She also knew what her mother really cared about. Not joy. Not connection. Just the look of the thing. Just how it would play on Instagram. She doesn't want to be part of the love, Tina whispered. She wants to be part of the show. Tina had still sent her an invitation. Printed on thick lavender-scented cardstock, hand-tied with silk thread she'd dyed herself. No RSVP came. Just a single text. Looks like something a homeschooled kid would make. Tina had actually laughed when she saw it. Her mom had forgotten she was the one who requested homeschooling for 3 years. What do you do? Tina said softly, when the woman who raised you tells you without yelling, without slamming doors, that your life doesn't count? You mourn it, Jordan said. Then you get up. And that's what Tina did. She hung the lights anyway. She pressed her dress. She rewrote her vows. And she filmed everything, not for social media but for truth. Her place in her mother's world had always been conditional. She was the second daughter, the quiet one. The kid with hand-me-downs. The one who was forgotten in half the family albums. At her sister Claire's wedding, the wedding her mom still gushed about over brunch, Tina wasn't in the bridal party. She wasn't even in the family row. I was behind the floral arch, she once told Jordan. Wearing a headset. Holding a clipboard. Making sure the harpist didn't get lost and the mini quiches were warm. Claire's gown had been hand-embroidered silk from Milan. Cost more than my undergrad degree, Tina had laughed once. Tina wore clearance flats. Got blisters by 2 p.m. And the only photo she appeared in was a blurry shot mid-wipe of the dessert table. Someone tagged her as staff. She never corrected them. So when Tina told her mom this wedding would be small, just vows under string lights, a homemade loaf of bread passed between hands, her mother blinked like Tina had cursed. Small, she repeated. That's disappointing, Tina. Don't you want something people will remember? Tina had smiled calm. I do, she'd replied. That's why we're doing it this way. What Tina wanted was real. The people she loved. The man she'd chosen. Music under the open sky. Laughter, not choreography. Food passed hand to hand. Not cold chicken on silver plates served by strangers, she had said. No chandeliers. No cake with gold fondant. But her mother had made it clear. Tina had failed. Not the wedding. Tina herself. She wasn't enough. Not glamorous. Not loud enough to be noticed. A week later Claire called. For a moment Tina had hoped, maybe an apology. But instead Claire said, Mom thinks you're spiraling. She says you're sabotaging the wedding because you're afraid to be the center of attention. Tina had listened. She'd thanked Claire for the call. Then hung up. They didn't understand. They never had. This isn't sabotage, she told Jordan later. This is reclamation. The wedding wasn't her mother's press release. It wasn't a show for relatives she hadn't spoken to since middle school. It's mine, she said simply. She didn't plan it to get a committee's approval. On the morning of the wedding the sky was a quiet gray, coastal soft. Made the backyard glow. Tina stood barefoot on the redwood porch, gazing over what they had created. Rows of mismatched chairs curved gently around the garden beds. Each chair was tied with hand-dyed ribbon that fluttered like breath in the breeze. Paper lanterns swayed like moons between the trees. Claire, her best friend since college, not her sister, was inside steaming her dress. A soft cream linen gown. With pockets. Claire had sewn it herself. A gift. Jordan's cousin had laid out place cards, printed on seed paper so guests could grow something. Tina walked the yard slowly, her fingers grazing jars of herbs and wildflowers. Everything had meaning. There was no bridal suite. No makeup team. Just Tina, a small mirror, and her hands. She twisted her dark hair into a loose knot and tucked 2 white gardenias behind her ear. When she stepped into the dress, it didn't feel like a costume. It felt like her. Claire stood behind her, adjusting the strap. "You okay?" she asked gently. Tina nodded. "I think so." Claire smiled. "You look like yourself." Tina gave a small smile back. "I've never felt more like myself." Outside, Jordan was helping set up the borrowed speaker. Tina peeked out the window and saw him laughing with a neighbor. Her heart softened. This was what love looked like. Quiet, steady, real. "If you believe love doesn't need a ballroom to be beautiful," Claire joked, "you should be in a magazine." Tina laughed, brushing a hand over her dress. "We'll see who notices." At 4:12 p.m. the ceremony began. There was no grand entrance. No announcement. Just the soft rustle of eucalyptus leaves and the creak of the garden gate as guests stepped inside. Jordan stood at the end of the garden path, not an aisle, in a navy jacket. His smile was lopsided, nervous, and full of love. Tina walked slowly toward him, barefoot, her dress brushing the grass. Her heart beat fast, but not from fear. From something deeper, recognition. There was no officiant. No formal speech. Just their voices, steady and open. "We just talked to each other," Jordan had said. And they did. Their vows weren't rehearsed. They were raw. Honest. Tina's voice cracked. Jordan's hands trembled. But their eyes never left each other. When they kissed, the guests clapped, not politely but wildly. Real applause. It filled the space like sunlight. Tina would always remember that sound. Dinner followed under the trees. Enamel pots full of roasted vegetables and garlic passed from hand to hand. No servers. No table numbers. Just laughter, soft music from the old speaker, and the smell of rosemary smoke rising from the grill. Someone hummed along to a Van Morrison song. Tina sat beside Jordan, his hand in hers, watching everyone eat and smile. "This is better than anything we imagined," she whispered. Claire leaned in. "This looks like a movie set." But Tina shook her head. "No. This looks like home." Later, she and Jordan danced under the string lights they had hung for weeks. The lights glowed like caught stars. Claire gave a toast that made Tina cry. Soft, honest words about courage and joy. Nobody was checking their phones. Nobody asked about filters. They were present. Really present. The next day, Tina and Jordan sat in their small kitchen, sipping coffee and watching the short video their friend Lila had made. Lila wasn't a wedding videographer. She was an indie filmmaker who'd offered to film the day as her gift. Just 90 seconds long. No narration. Just light, motion, and music. It opened with Jordan nervously wiping his hands on his pants, then Tina tying a ribbon around a mason jar. It ended with them dancing barefoot under the lanterns. Tina watched it twice before speaking. She made it feel ancient. Jordan nodded, touched. "It's beautiful," he said. "Do you think it's petty if I post it?" Tina asked. Jordan smiled gently. "Sometimes petty is just the truth finally told." So she posted it. No hashtags. No captions. Just the date, October 8th. Home. By morning, the video had over 20,000 views. By lunch, it passed 50,000. That evening, a writer from an independent design blog messaged Tina. "Is this your wedding? Can we feature it?" Tina read the message twice, stunned. "I didn't expect any of this," she told Jordan. By the end of the week, 2 online magazines had featured their wedding, and one lifestyle blog included it in a list. The most beautiful backyard weddings you'll ever see. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about validation. It was about being seen softly and honestly. Not by people who needed her to perform, but by strangers who felt the truth in the details. Then the call started. Claire, her sister, was first. She left a voicemail that started with, "Wow," and ended with, "So, why didn't you tell us it was going to be like that?" Then Aunt Jenny texted, stunned. And finally her mother. No call. Just a message. "Is this the wedding I wasn't invited to?" Tina stared at the screen. Technically her mother had been invited. She just never responded. The next day another message came. "You made us look terrible, Tina. People keep asking why we weren't there. You could have warned us." Tina blinked at the words. Warn them? About what? That she'd found happiness without their approval? She read the message 3 times. "It's not about hurt," she said aloud to Jordan. "It's about how it looked." Jordan didn't reply immediately. Later that night he watched the video again. The soft music played and silence filled the room after it ended. He turned to Tina and said, "You should let her see it. Not because she deserves it, but because she clearly doesn't understand what she missed." Tina didn't respond at first. But the next day she sent the message. "If you want to understand what really happened, come to the studio Friday at 3 o'clock. Nothing's edited." Her mother arrived 10 minutes late. Of course. She wore pearls. As always. She walked into the small studio like she was touring an art gallery she didn't quite respect. Her heels echoed against the hardwood. Her face was polite, unreadable. She didn't smile. Tina didn't offer small talk. No hug. No fake warmth. Lila had set up the space simply. Just 2 chairs, a modest screen, dim lights. Tina pressed play. The film began. Her mother sat stiff, arms folded. Tina didn't watch the screen. She watched her mother instead. Waiting for the usual signs. The eye roll, the smirk, the sigh. But none came. Just silence. The video played the natural sounds of the day. Gravel under shoes, birds in the trees, Jordan's shaky breath as he said, "home" during his vows. Tina's own voice cracked as she promised to choose love, even in quiet seasons. Her mother sat still. Then at minute 12 she shifted. At minute 18 she blinked quickly. And at minute 20 when Tina and Jordan danced under the glowing paper lanterns, her mother finally exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath the whole time. When the film ended, Tina paused it on the final still. Empty chairs, candle wax pooled in jars, the garden quiet. Her mother spoke first. "It looked expensive," she said. Tina said nothing. "You didn't tell me it would be like that." Tina finally turned to her. "Would it have mattered?" Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. "I invited you," Tina said, her tone calm but solid. "You didn't come." Her mother looked away. "You didn't make it clear." Tina interrupted her. "I wasn't asking for your approval. I was getting married." Her mother's voice sharpened. "You made us look like we didn't care." Tina tilted her head. "Did you?" There was a flicker, just a flash of something vulnerable in her mother's eyes. But she didn't answer. Tina stood and walked to the door. She opened it. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. Her mother lingered near the threshold. She looked around the studio like she wanted to say something else. Like she needed a second chance, but didn't know how to ask for one. Then she said, "I didn't know it would be beautiful." Tina nodded. "That's the point. You didn't care enough to find out." Her mother didn't reply. She just stepped out. No hug. No apology. The door clicked shut behind her. Tina stood there for a moment, breathing in the quiet. It wasn't closure. It wasn't forgiveness. It was clarity. After that day, Tina didn't hear from her mother again. No message. No call. No apology wrapped in excuses. Just silence. And strangely, it felt more honest than anything they'd said in years. There was no official goodbye. No dramatic falling out. Just a slow, quiet absence that stretched like fog between them. Thanksgiving came and went. No invitation. Christmas passed. No card. Tina didn't cry. She didn't wait. She focused on her life with Jordan. Small, joyful moments. Cooking dinner together. Planting more wildflowers. Fixing up the backyard even more. "It's like a breath," she told Claire one day. "For the first time I can breathe in my own life." Then something unexpected happened. Lila submitted the full wedding film to an art collective in Seattle. They screened it as part of an exhibit called Intimate Architecture. "It's about spaces we build for love," Lila explained. Tina and Jordan flew up for the opening. The gallery was simple but full. People watched the film with wet eyes. A couple even asked if Tina and Jordan were actors. Tina laughed. No, she said, just a woman who got married where her life actually began. For the first time she felt something different than pride. She felt understood, not just by Jordan or Claire but by strangers who saw. 6 months later Tina found a small package on the porch. No return address. Just her name written in cursive she instantly recognized. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a photo. Claire's wedding. One she had never seen before. Tina was in the background holding a tray of champagne flutes. Her face was turned, focused on something off camera. On the back of the photo were 2 lines handwritten. I looked right past you that day. I see you now. No name. No apology. But she didn't need one. Tina stood quietly by the counter, reading the words again and again. She didn't frame the photo. She didn't call. She didn't send a thank you message. Instead she slipped it into the back of her wedding album, right behind the photo of Jordan spinning her barefoot under the lantern lights. Both of them laughing. That's the story I'll tell, Tina said later, showing the album to a friend. When people ask about our wedding. She pointed to the picture. We planted wildflowers where people expected roses. We fed people with our hands. Not a catering checklist. And we invited everyone who mattered, even the ones who never came. Her voice didn't shake. She wasn't angry. Just sure. Because in the end Tina knew the truth. A wedding isn't made by who attends. It's made by who stays. When she looked at the photos now, she didn't see what was missing. She saw what remained. The hands that held hers. The smiles that filled the night. The friends who danced barefoot in the grass. Not everything needs a big stage, she told Jordan one evening. Some things just need roots. He nodded, pulling her close. We gave our love a home. Tina smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. And for the first time in years she wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just living it. Tina didn't miss the invitations that no longer came. She didn't scroll through family updates with a heavy heart. The distance that had once hurt now felt like space. Space to grow, space to build, space to breathe. She and Jordan spent weekends fixing up the old garden beds, adding a small fountain in the center. Sometimes they played the wedding film on the projector outdoors for friends. We keep reliving it, Claire joked once. Because it was perfect, Jordan said. And it was. Not flawless, not extravagant. But true. Each flicker of candlelight, each laugh, each tear, it all meant something. Tina didn't need her mother's applause. She'd finally learned that not everyone clapping is clapping for you. One quiet afternoon in early spring, Tina sat in the backyard with Jordan, their fingers laced, watching bees circle the lavender. Remember how nervous you were? She teased. Jordan grinned. I thought I'd faint before you reached me. They both laughed. Their laughter didn't need an audience. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. The way Tina always wanted. Claire dropped by with fresh bread and a new poem to read aloud. They sat together under the same fairy lights, now faded with time but still hanging strong. Do you ever think she'll come around? Claire asked gently. Tina took a breath. Maybe. But I'm not waiting for her anymore. It wasn't bitterness. It was peace. Months passed. New chapters began. Claire moved closer. Jordan started a small woodworking business from their garage. Tina taught art classes at the community center, guiding kids to paint with emotion, not perfection. Every so often someone would bring up the wedding video. A student's mom said, "That's what I want for my daughter. Something with heart." One night Tina and Jordan watched the short film again. "We should send it to that couple we met in Seattle," Jordan said. "The one with the baby on the way." Tina nodded. "So they know you don't need chandeliers to feel like royalty." The world around them kept moving. Friends got married in hotels. Cousins posted glossy wedding shoots online. Tina saw them and smiled. Not out of envy but from knowing her wedding didn't need to compete. It was never about outshining anyone. It was about belonging. And she had found that, not in her mother's gaze, not in her sister's approval, but in a backyard lit by lanterns and filled with music only she could hear. "It's funny," Jordan said once, "how something so quiet could echo so far." Tina nodded. "Because it was honest," she said. "And people are hungry for honest." Then one morning another envelope came. This one had a return address. It was from her aunt, her mother's sister. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. Short. I saw the film. I cried. I wish I had come. I wish I had asked more questions. You looked radiant, Tina. I'm sorry for the silence. Tina folded it gently, placed it beside the photo from months ago. She didn't need everyone to apologize. Just one person reaching out in truth made her feel seen. It's not about fixing the past, she told Jordan. It's about learning not to carry it. He kissed her forehead. You carry light now. On the anniversary of their wedding, they hosted a small dinner in the backyard. Same string lights. Same mismatched chairs. This time with new friends, new memories. Tina wore her linen dress again, slightly worn but still hers. They passed bread, played Van Morrison again, and let the music float into the trees. Someone asked, "Where did you find the idea for this kind of wedding?" Tina smiled. I didn't find it. I remembered it. I remembered that love doesn't need stages. Just roots and rain and someone who won't let go. That night, after everyone left, Tina stood alone in the garden. The lanterns swayed softly above her just like a year ago. She looked up and whispered, "Thank you," not to anyone in particular, just to the moment, to the wind, to herself. Behind her, Jordan wrapped his arms around her. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I finally stopped trying to prove I was enough." Jordan kissed her cheek. "You always were." They stood together in silence, not needing more words. The moon watched over them, full and glowing. Weeks later, Tina was invited to speak at a creative retreat. The theme was building what matters. She stood in front of a small group holding a photo of her wedding. The paper lanterns, the barefoot dance, the wildflowers. "This is what I built," she said. "Not for recognition. Not to please anyone. But because I was tired of waiting to be chosen." One woman cried. Another wrote Tina's words in her journal. And when someone asked if Tina would ever rebuild a relationship with her mother, she paused. "I left the door open," she said. "But I'm not standing in the doorway anymore." Back home, Tina and Jordan printed out their favorite photo from the wedding. Not the kiss. Not the vows. But the one where they're laughing, faces lit by lanterns, shoes off, holding hands mid-spin. They framed it in oak. Jordan carved himself. It hung by the front door. The first thing people saw when they walked in. "It reminds me of where we started," Tina said. "Not the wedding. The truth." Jordan squeezed her hand. "The truth was beautiful," he said. "And it was." Tina never wrote her mother back. He didn't need to. Some stories don't end with apologies. Some end with wildflowers blooming in a garden you built yourself. When people ask about her wedding now, she tells them, "It wasn't fancy. But it was full. Full of meaning. Full of peace. Full of people who stayed." And when she flips through the album with guests, she always stops at one picture. The one where they're laughing, surrounded by stars made of light. "This," she says, "is what happens when you stop chasing what left and learn to love what stayed." Moral lesson. Sometimes the love we long for doesn't come from the people we expect. But when we honor what stays, we build something far more beautiful than anyone else can imagine. Please help us to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more of this.